On today's Patriot Nation podcast, we are joined by the one and only Mark Schofield, of course, of Pat's Pulpit. We're going to break down the Brady game from last week, but there's some big news as well coming out today. Stephon Gilmore, of course, traded for a bag of donuts to Carolina, so that'll be interesting to get into. And we also have Luke Sawhook coming on for our 5-minute fantasy. It's a hell of a show, so buckle up and cue the music. Mark, you're here. We're all ready to talk Davis Mills and Tom Brady and Mac Jones and Stephon Gilmore bombshell this morning. What the heck? What the heck?
I don't know. I mean, it saved me from spending 25 minutes on my show today talking about Davis Mills. So in a sense, I kind of appreciated that. It was disappointing though, because we couldn't get 12 hours to enjoy last night's Red Sox game, which was kind of frustrating. I don't get it. And we started talking about it before we hit record. It just seems like such a mistake of management, such a mistake of one of the better players on your roster, one of the better assets on your roster from a sort of roster construction standpoint. And it's one of those moments, guys, where it's hard to divorce fan from analyst, because analysts, you try to sort of like call it as it is, like call it down the middle, see both sides. The fan part of me wants to just like riot. Like the fan part of me wants to just like grab the tiki torches and go nuts, because it just seems like you've wasted a huge window of opportunity here. And so it's frustrating beyond belief. To get a 6th-round pick in return is just, for a guy that's 31, 2 seasons removed from being Defensive Player of the Year. I know he's coming off of an injury. I know there's a big contract, but a 6th? Wow.
It's ridiculous.
And I wrote about it today, right? I think it's frustrating because this whole situation was sort of inevitable at this point. You knew that this was going to happen, right? I mean, him and Jackson, are both up this year, both unrestricted. You're obviously going to want to pay the younger, cheaper, homegrown player. And Jackson, I think he's just deserving. He'd obviously be less money than obviously what Gilmore wants. But like I said, you knew this was coming really after the year he won the Defensive Player of the Year and started to, start moaning about his contract, right? And deservedly so, right? That guy, he signed, I think Belichick handled that contract really well at the time. He had paid a premium for corners before the league valued them what they do now. That's why the contract looks like such a bargain. But I think then whatever, you didn't know if Tom Brady was coming back. You're obviously still in win now mode. Fine. Last year at the deadline, that was a lost year. You had no quarterback. So many moving pieces. That was the best chance to move him. And, there were reports around the deadline that I looked up today that they scoffed at like a 2nd-round pick for him. It's like, that was pretty good at the time, 30 years old, a year and a half left of team control. You knew this was happening. You knew this was coming. And I just think they poorly managed one of their best assets they've had in a long time. I love the player, what he did here. He's all business, doesn't talk much. So like I said, it's nothing to do with him and why, you don't pay him here. But if you're not going to pay him here, ship him off, get at least a day 2 pick. And now they handcuff themselves. And here we are. You get a next year's 6th. So it's poorly managed. And now they're kind of, the Panthers made out like a bandit. They talk about them. They get Darnold for cheap and then they get Gilmore for cheap. That's a team that,
CJ Henderson for nothing.
Yeah. Yep. And like Horn's down too. So, I mean, like that's Gilly's hometown. You keep him around, man. That's a good team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing for me is whenever I've thought about it or talked about it, it's going back to, we talked about it on this show, the 2 days that he just didn't show up to camp and then mysteriously got a pay raise for the next year. Like that was a holdout. So you knew at that point in, what was it, August of 2020, that you need to figure this out, whether it's trade him or extend him. It needs to be done by the end of that year. And whether they were going to get it done or not, the quad injury happens and then all of it goes to shit. And I think the big thing is like, there's no more putting these things off. You need to handle your business when it comes up because you don't know what's going to happen because these things unravel. And that's what happened, right? It unraveled to you got nothing for him.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it too for me that's so frustrating is that, we sit here and we talk about, okay, the Patriots the defense has looked good and J.C. Jackson has looked good, which is true. Like that is true. And I do think that the defense is going to be fine without him. Are they a better team with him? Of course, they're a better team with him. There's no way around that, right? Maybe you can say J.C. Jackson's better than Stephon Gilmore at this point. Maybe you can say that, right? But even if that's the case, you still can't sit there and say that, oh, well, they don't need him. That's foolish. Of course they need him. And so the hard part for me is that you have to now sit here and justify it. So, okay, he's not on the team. Fine. Okay, well, you got something for him, right? No, you didn't. So now, not only do you make the team worse in the short run because you don't have him, but you make the team worse in the long run because you got nothing for him, right? And Fitzy tweeted out today, like, you get a 3rd-round comp pick for Brady and you get a 6th-round pick in 2023, for Gilmore. You lose those 2 guys and get nothing back. And I wrote an article, well, if you're listening in podcast form, it's Friday, but if you're watching on YouTube, it's Wednesday. It'll come out tomorrow morning on Thursday. And, basically saying this is the worst managed situation that Belichick has ever been in a Patriots uniform, because you compare it to everybody else. I know Jimmy G, they talk, and I don't want to get into the whole Jimmy G thing, but they weren't getting an early 1st-round pick for him. I don't care what anybody says. They weren't. It wasn't happening. So they still get a 2nd-round pick. No other situation was this bad where you have a guy who was a defensive player of the year 2 years ago and you get nothing for him. You might as well just let him walk. They might as well just held on to him. Right. Right. But it's not just that. If you would let him walk, you would have gotten at worst a 5th-round pick in 2023. Probably a 3rd-round pick in 2023 if he just hadn't played all year this year. And so that's the thing for me is like, you traded him literally because you said, well, we don't want him to go to Kansas City or some stupid crap like that. We don't want him around the locker room. I mean, that's how bad the situation got that he couldn't even be around the locker room. I mean, it's like they messed up big time. And, Bill misread the market or didn't treat it right or whatever, but he screwed this up big time. And listen, like I said, team, I think will be okay, but he deserves some real criticism for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Pat. The team will be okay. But I think it's fair to look at the process that unfolded here and realize that this process that unfolded, the way they handled this situation, they screwed that up. And so, yeah, sure, the team might be okay, but we'd have loved to have a 3rd-rounder in last year's draft as opposed to a 6th-rounder in next year's draft. And when you start thinking about the valuation of a pick, like a 6th-round pick, down the road is like a 7th-rounder at this moment. That's how teams sort of calculate it. So the process is flawed. And like Spags walked us through, we knew this day was coming. Like Keegan outlined, there was a holdout. So you knew this was going to come to loggerheads. Like at last year's draft time, like the fact that they just did not handle this business then is biting them right now. So yay, they got it. There was all the discussions. This again, if you're watching on YouTube today, when this was announced and they said, oh, they're going to release him. And it's like, oh, they're going to drive up a market. Well, good job. The market you drove up got us a 6th-round pick down the road.
Hell of a market.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one of the things is like the locker room thing, I don't think can be just brushed aside. I'm not saying it's like they hate their team situation because like obviously, or they hate their coach situation,
right.
But like those guys have a relationship. Mac talked about it today, how he would pull him aside and be like, these are some things I'm seeing and helping you out. What does it hurt to have that guy around? Just like, even if he never plays for you again, I think his knowledge of just having him in the building is more valuable than the 6th-round pick that you got. So if you would have just waited and let him go, and what I struggle with is I don't think this is Belichick trying to cover his own ass, because he looks worse doing this than he would have just kind of letting it run out. So I can't understand what went into the thought process to make the decision today. It must have been Gilmore being like, all right, enough's enough. Get me out of here. I want to go play. That has to have been it. There's no other explanation.
The thing is, too, he's not. Why would he ever play a snap at $7 million? Like,
well, he's doing it now.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, right? I mean, in a place that you're not necessarily wanted in the future, it's like kind of pointless for him. So I can kind of see his thought process, like, get me out. But it was just so mismanaged.
I just think with him playing on the contract now there's a situation from Gilmore's perspective. I've done all my rehab here. I've been here for 3.5 years. You know that I'm good. I'm good to go. So give me my money. I've earned it from you. I've given you all of this production. I want the pay increase. I want the bump here. And then when he goes to Carolina, Carolina's like, we don't know if you're quad's good. So we're not going to just give you a pay increase, but what you can do is you can come here. We'll give you the opportunity to play where they're not giving that to you in New England. You sat on PUP when you probably didn't need to. You could have played earlier than he's going to end up playing. So I think that went into it as well. Like there has to be some sort of feeling like the Patriots put him in a bad position to capitalize on whatever value he has. And I'm sure he's not thrilled about it. I would be pissed.
Well, his wife speaks on his behalf all the time on Twitter.
Absolutely.
And she's been, like he's kind of a silent guy, but I think a lot of kind of what he's thinking, it comes through her. And there's no problem with that, obviously, but from her, point of view today, I don't think it ended very well.
No.
Everyone said their niceties on the way out the door, but I don't think privately it was that nice. And again, that's the only reason you trade him. I mean, like I said, you could have let him walk as a free agent. You would have gotten a better compensation if you would just let him walk. There's no way you get a comp pick that's worse than a 6th-round pick for letting Stephon Gilmore walk, because you can't sign any free agents. So like whatever he signs for, you're going to end up getting a comp pick back for him that's going to be better than the pick you got. And so the only reason you would trade him is because the contract situation got so untenable that it just became a situation where you had to trade him because he was going to be a distraction in the locker room, which again is just one of those things where you're like, we saw this coming down the road. And Spags, you said that it's obvious the Patriots wanted to pay J.C. Jackson because he's younger. I actually think it's the opposite. I think they wanted to pay Gilmore, and they wanted to try to figure it out this year where Gilmore kind of
not at the price he wants, though.
Well, that's the thing. I think they wanted him to take a discount because he's 31 and he's older and he's got the injury. Take a discount and they can get him for cheaper. And of course, that ended up not happening, but it blew up right in their face, right? And
you can want all the things in the world, but if they sat down and they were realistic about it, they were never going to get him to take what they wanted to give him.
Yeah. So now here we are sitting here, pissed off about friggin' Stephon Gilmore. And like you said, Mark, it was a good weekend. We'll get into the Brady game, but of course, Sox win and you're like, all right, we're ready to go. And then boom, Gilmore's gone. And we're like, what the hell is going on? It's just,
I want to get into some positives because I think there's a lot there. The quarterback guru, I call him, Mark, I think, voice of reasoning for it. Mac Jones has been as good as advertised. I guess your initial thoughts, what's been good, what's been, bad. I don't want to say ugly because I don't really think much of it has. I guess what's your take on him so far? I think the 1-3 record, definitely isn't his fault. And some of those interceptions aren't his fault. Like I said, what do you like from him and what to keep building on?
I mean, I've generally been impressed with the accuracy, particularly the throws that he's made. Now he's missed on some of the deeper downfield stuff. And I know that's kind of a bugaboo that everybody's focused on right now. And I think you look at the passing chart from Sunday night, the one attempt downfield was the interception, but I think that was the right read. That's sort of that monument defender type of throw where you've got a defender trail coverage against that split safety look where, you make a good throw. The guy just made a great play. 9 times out of 10, that guy's not going to get his head around in time. You've put that throw in that spot, it's going to get caught. The defender, Ross Cockrell, just made a good play to turn around, tip that ball, and it gets to be an interception. I think you see a lot of the little things, the accuracy, the ability to manipulate defenders. I think you see some of the secondary movement skills that were a question mark on Mac Jones coming out of Alabama. The play where one of their linebackers, I think it was Devin White, had a free run at him, and he's able to sidestep that, hit Bourne on the backside dig. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that Mac Jones is going to have to be able to do. And he's showing that he can do that. So there are a lot of things to build on. The questions, there is an arm strength consideration. I think that's more a short-term problem with a short-term fix than a thing that's never going to come together for him. I do think he has an average arm right now, but it can get better as that goes on, as NFL strength and conditioning program goes on. Lower body strength, things like that. I'm not worried about that. I think that will improve. I think at times against particularly New Orleans, troubles in protection, particularly the right tackle spot since Trent Brown's been down, have started to exacerbate some problems with him with sort of a pocket management standpoint. He's starting to click and climb pockets sooner than he might need to because he's worried, and he's climbing himself into more pressure from the interior. And so hopefully we get Trent Brown back soon, and that will sort of help sort that situation out. And so, he's been good. He's been good for this team right now. And I think, in terms of could this team be better with another option? Maybe in the short term. But once you've made the decision that this is our guy and you're going to move on from every other option and you're going all in on Mac Jones, now the question becomes, are they doing enough week in and week out to put him in the best position to be successful? And, I think by and large, the game plan against Tampa Bay did some of that. I would have liked to see more in terms of attacking those corners. I loved when Pierre Desir had to come in and they went after him like 3 of the next 5 throws were in his direction. It's like, okay, that's good. Like, show some confidence in your guy. I'd like to see them show some more confidence in him going forward. And look, they get Houston this week. This is a get-right game. This is an opportunity against a team that's going to play a lot of static cover 3, a lot of cover 1 stuff. There's opportunities to make some throws. And so I'm excited to see him continue to develop. I've liked, for the most part, what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I agree. Question here. Is it the O-line's been trash, the Patriots are getting blitzed a ton, or is it both?
I mean, it's a little bit of both from where I sit. Like, you see some of the things that Tampa Bay did. There's concerns about the right tackle spot. So what do? You show some overload looks, some stunts, some twists, some stuff to attack those gaps, to attack the right guard and the right tackle. Scraping, twists and stuff to make those guys try to communicate on the fly because there's a lot of unfamiliarity. And when you're running guys on and off, you're going with 2 different tackles as they did on Sunday night. There's going to be some problems there. Teams are attacking with blitzes at times, and there's some unfamiliarity up front, which can create problems with protection. And so, it's a mix of both. The teams realize, look, they're doing advanced scouting. They know that there are problems with the right tackle spot. So they're going to either blitz or just overload or just do some stunts and twists, some simple stuff with 4-man pressure schemes, attacking that side of the line. So it's a bit of both.
I wanted to ask you about the protection stuff too, because I feel like, there's no way of anybody really knowing this, but as a rookie, they're probably not having him call everything out. Like, it's probably a collaborative effort. But if it's him, is he just not making the right calls, or is it kind of everything goes into it where maybe people aren't following the call, stuff like that?
It's like the Patriots, Keegan, are one of those teams that tasks the quarterback with making these calls. The
Right.
quarterback is intimately involved with setting protections, so much so that like other teams, even some of the Peyton Manning teams, like the center, Jeff Saturday was involved. Now, look, the center can help stuff. The center can identify stuff. The center can help set stuff. The center can, chime in as well. But a lot of it runs through the quarterback. You pull off New England's playbook, and it's like, the mic point and all that stuff that the quarterback does, that sets everything else in motion. Now, for the large part, again, not knowing every play call, surmising based on how the things look on film, like, okay, this is that front, this is their 62 series, this is their 66 series, backs are making dual reads inside out, backside tackle might be making dual reads and things like that. You can try to guess. We still don't know. I think for the most part, the pre-snap stuff is handled, but then reacting to stuff's post-snap, sort of what I was just talking about, Keegan, that could sort of get screwed up, where you think, okay, everybody's on the same page. We're setting the protection away from this guy. We got a 4-man slide one way, backside tackle fanning out, dual read from the running back. Everybody's good to go. Guys twist, guys flash differently at the snap. Somebody makes a wrong step. Somebody makes a wrong read. Mac looks the wrong way, doesn't see a hot. Things can go south in a flash.
Right. So, because you saw that on the interception last week where Brandon Bolden just bailed immediately. And then Devin White's like, oh, I'm going to go hit that guy.
Yeah. And on that one, Keegan, not only did they have the A-gap run through with the linebacker, they had a tackle end exchange. So you have a tackle going upfield, and they loop the end around, all attacking the right side, all attacking that A-gap. Bolden assumes with the way they're fanning protection that everybody's going out, but everybody kind of loops inside. And at that point, you do something and he releases. But you're exactly right. That's a great example of how stuff can go wonky post-snap, even if you think you've got everything set up pre-snap, and what Tampa Bay was doing on Sunday night, which was attack that right side and try to exploit what's happening at the right tackle spot.
Yeah. I want to talk about something that protection obviously is important. I want to talk about something that all of my Spotify green room people are just all over me on 4 letters. They are ADOT. It's all they care about. It's all they care about. Oh, Max stinks. He's no good. He's this. He's that. And this is what I think is funny. And I talked about it a little bit, kind of after the game. I was chatting with them. Is like, listen, we went into this week last week thinking the Patriots were going to get blown out, right? They're going to get blown out. They're going to look terrible. They're going to be awful. Then it was close, and I do want to discuss the kick situations with you guys, but then it was close, and Mac played pretty well. I thought outplayed Brady, and then the conversation was, well, Mac only throws short, so he stinks. And it's like, well, wait a second. I thought we were going to get killed now. So it just seems like I don't know. I don't know what your opinion is on that, but I think it's a little garbage.
I mean, look, I've got NFL's next gen stats up right now, and intended air yards or average intended air yards. Okay. I mean, Mac Jones is at 7.6. Is it the best in the league? No. Is it kind of below average? Yeah. Justin Herbert's 7.3. Dak Prescott is 7.1. Like, there are all sorts of different ways you could slice, average depth of target, intended air yards, all that kind of stuff. I think Mac Jones has to learn what windows as a quarterback right now he can effectively target in the downfield passing game and how to best do that. You think back to week 1 when he had Jacoby Myers on the crosser working against Jason McCourty. It was sort of a zero blitz kind of look. And he tried to put air under that throw, even though Jacoby Myers had 3 steps of separation. Jason McCourty closed that window. He's not throwing against Missouri on a Saturday afternoon, targeting Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith. I mean, this is the NFL. Windows are going to close in the blink of an eye. This is part of the learning process for a young quarterback. Paige and Brian Phillips, quarterback development is not linear. Like I try to say this all the time. Like he's going to have good games and bad games. I thought Sunday night was a good game for him. I thought obviously the Saints game was a pretty bad game, and the Jets game had its ups and downs. I think looking at what they're calling for him, are there opportunities for him to attack downfield that he should take advantage of? Yes, and he's not doing that consistently. I'd like to see him do more of it, but it's a learning process. He might feel after that week 1 game that, now we've got this trick play. I've got Jonnu Smith on the crosser that I could take, or I could try a deeper shot even though it's open. I'm going to take the easier throw, just make sure we get something out of it. Okay, good. Now we go back on Monday, we put up that film and say, look, Mac, this is a throw you can make. Like, I know probably what happened was 9 times out of 10, they run that play and he hits the crosser because he doesn't expect that deep shot to be open, and it's open. This is something that I often try to remind people of. Sometimes you get a look in a game you're not expecting based on what happened in practice, based on how you practiced it. And so maybe some of these deep shots that we're all seeing on film that are there, he hasn't been expecting that. He hasn't been anticipating that. Or it's one of these things like in progressions where you peek it and you come off of it. If you like it right away, you throw it. If you look at it and you don't like it, you don't come back to it. Because if you go through the other steps of your progression and then you try to come back to that vertical deep shot, it's going to be too late. And so there's a lot that goes into this. I think it was his 4th start in the league. If we're still having this discussion come Thanksgiving when we're all fat from stuffing, then yeah, we can continue to worry about it. But let's see how the next couple of weeks go before we all lose our minds and I lose more of my hair here. So yeah.
All right, so the kicks, right? And Spags, I want to start with you here. We're 4th and 2 at about the 44, I think it was. They punted to Brady with 2 minutes left to go in the half. Brady drives right down the field, of course, kicks a field goal. I thought that was a mistake. I thought that was scared football. I was shocked that they did that. And then, I guess it was 2 minutes because I think it was at the 2-minute warning, right? And then, of course, end of the game, they kicked the field goal instead of going for it. 52 seconds left. Again, there's 52 seconds left with 2 timeouts. Like, does anybody really believe that Brady's not getting the ball back and driving down the field and winning the game anyways? Like, I thought both of those kicks were the reason they lost. And again, I mean, who knows what happens if they go for it there? Maybe they don't get either of them. But to me, I just hate it. I hate the conservative play calling. And Bill and Josh have been doing this now for like 3 straight years, and it's driving me nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand both sides. The kick, like before the half, go for it every time, right? I mean, you're stringing together, starting to get some good plays together, an opportunity to go down and get points before the half. But at the end of the game, I do see their thought. They were 2 for 9 on 3rd down in that game, right? And I know the play before, if that ball doesn't hit, who was it, Vita Vea's hand, like they go down, they run it out. Levante David, yeah, they go down and win it, right? So, if he hits it, and the defense had been playing well, right? Like they couldn't punch the ball in the end zone. And I know Brady probably would have needed 45 yards to kick a field goal. I think either way you're looking at, hindsight's obviously 2020, right? But I didn't really have an issue with it. I think the biggest thing was just the lack of not putting the game in his hands. I know it's his fourth game, but that's a big moment for him. He converts there. That's a big opportunity for him kind of going forward, building off that. But yeah, 56. He was good from there. Like just before his range in pregame was like 53, 54. I know it was a monsoon out, and I don't know. I guess I'm kind of indifferent on it, right? Like hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, I think I will say there were people who it was like beginning before everything. They were like, this is a terrible decision. I do not like this decision. I wouldn't say I was one of those people, but the way I looked at it, before the game, I had posted their third down stats, the Tampa Bay's offense, defense, New England's offense, defense. New England, surprisingly, by far a better third down team, just a conversion team. They've been better offensively and defensively. Tampa Bay is the 28th ranked, third down conversion defense. If you don't have a play to convert on a 4th and 2 against a team that can't stop anybody from converting, I think that's an issue. Obviously, in the moment, I don't think they're thinking like, oh, do we have all that doesn't really go into it. But for the most prepared team in the NFL, if you don't have a play ready to go, need to get it to pick up a few extra yards for a field goal to win the game, then what are you doing? You're playing way too conservative if you don't have that. And I think it's been upsetting throughout Belichick's tenure. He's gotten progressively more. I talked about it on the last show I was on about an hour ago. I said he zigs when everybody else zags, and that includes when everybody else got more aggressive. He was just like, all right, we're going to play 1993. We're going to run it. We're going to punt all the time like that. And it's pretty frustrating to watch when they could have won a game if they made two different decisions, and they didn't, and they lost. It sucks to watch.
Yeah, I mean, my buddy Joe Farriola, who's at Next Gen Stats, he sent me like maybe an hour after the game ended the numbers on both of those decisions. And again, they're just Next Gen's analytical numbers, but in both situations, it's set to go for it. I mean, the punt before the half, what if you go for it, 54.5%, win percentage if you punt, 49.5. So, a difference of 5%. But the field goal decision at the end of the game, win percentage if you go for it, 34.7. Win percentage for a field goal, 24.3. I mean, that's a pretty big jump. Again, just numbers. Sometimes you have to go with your gut. But I think Spag sort of alluded to it, the idea of showing some faith in your young quarterback. I mean, I think there is value for that, showing some faith in your offense. Yeah, it was a night where the defense had played very well. By and large part, kept them out of the end zone, but for one scoring drive where they, had a running touchdown. Show some faith in your young quarterback, though, because even if you don't get it, then you've shown to this team that, look, this is our guy. We trust him in this moment to go out and win us a game. And the other thing to sort of keep in mind here, in terms of the Belichick zigging versus zagging, there's an argument to be made. He started the whole aggressive decisions in the first place.
Yeah, that was my point.
The Indy decision, right?
And that's why it's so annoying. Like, what happened to the guy that was intentionally giving the other team a safety so he could put his better unit onto the field and play the field position game? Like, that guy's gone. And we haven't seen that in a very long time. And I think that's what's so frustrating about it.
Yeah.
I agree. I would like to say as well, tweet it out beforehand. And I would just like to say, in warmups, Gunner on the hold, Jake Bailey, cash money from 60 yards. I just put it out there. I'm not saying Nick Folk's not good enough. I'm just saying Jake Bailey, he might have hit it. He might have hit it.
I did have a thought as well. Even though he had the leg for it, he was just a little bit to the left. He doinked it. Quinn Nordin, I mean, that thing hits the top of the goalpost. That guy's got a cannon, and maybe it doesn't tail so much. So it was like, oh man, but that's going way too deep.
I mean, what was that? Folks first missing like 37 kicks. So I guess we'll give him a pass on it. Like it's just it's tough to swallow. And like I said, it's one of those things where it's frustrating because, like you said, Keegan, one or two decisions, right? And those decisions seem like they're obvious decisions to do. anyone that knows anything about football, at least from an analytics standpoint, says go for it. And Bill doesn't go for it. And like I said, he's been doing that for 2 years now. He did it in the was the Tennessee playoff game where they had like 4th and 2 around midfield right before the half, and they didn't go for it and they punted it, and they ended up losing by, I mean, of course, pick 6 at the end, but they ended up losing they were down by 3 at the end of the game, right? It was just like, you were right there. If you had scored in that moment and not given the ball up and given up a score at the end of the game, at the end of the half, you would have won, and it's like, that's the type of stuff that, that just drives you nuts. And so it's certainly hard to watch. So, all right.
And real quick, one last thing before we move on to Davis Mills. Your young quarterback, like the upsetting part, again, your young quarterback put you in a position to win, and you were like, we're not going to let you follow through on this. Like, you put us in the position, and we're not going to let you finish the job. That's a horrible sign to show your young quarterback. Like, it's basically saying we don't quite trust you in the do or die. You got to get the 2 yards or whatever, which not my Bill Belichick.
Right, and he was literally the only guy because they had negative 1 yards rushing. I guess they did have a kneel at the end of the half, so technically maybe 0 yards rushing, but still, they had no running game to speak of whatsoever, and so it was literally all on Mac Jones. Davis Mills, the guy they're playing this week, he had no running game last week either. I think he started the game like 5 for 96 with like 13 yards passing and 12 interceptions or something ridiculous. I mean, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But again, to me, it just shows you kind of what you have with Mac Jones is that even when nothing is working around him and you can't protect him and he gets hit 12 times and he has no running game and there's a monsoon going on, that he can still be effective and still move the ball down the field. And, you got a guy on the other sideline who the team clearly is worse. Obviously, I think the Texans are one of the worst teams in football, but still who like literally can't complete a pass. And, it's not great. So what do you think this week, Mark? Is it going to be a blowout or like, I mean, I don't know.
It has the potential to be a blowout. It absolutely has the potential to be a blowout. I mean, you don't need to look too deep into that Buffalo-Houston game to see what that team thinks of Davis Mills, because there's a 3rd and 10 situation, 7:09 in the first quarter, where they just call 3 curl routes, just 3 routes right at the first down marker. It's basically like your playground, go to the first down marker and turn around kind of thing. And he just absolutely botches the read on it. And it's not only that Edmonds, the linebacker, is reading his eyes and jumping the route. They drop Addison, the defensive end, off the line of scrimmage, and he reads his eyes. Like, this is a defensive end who's not used to being a zone dropping dude into coverage off the line of scrimmage. And when he's like a step ahead of the play too, and he honestly could have picked it before Edmonds did, that's a problem. Like, this is your proverbial get right opportunity for the New England Patriots on Sunday. There's an opportunity to pick this defense apart. Like, try to name some Texans players on defense. Like,
JJ Watt.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just Jadeveon Clowney still there. I mean, it would have been a good question for the show you were just on, Keegan. A little trivia question about.
I said there's Whitney Merciless, who he'll have a sack because that's what he does.
Still on the team. He's still there.
Yep.
And then Justin Reed, who's a good safety,
and Zach Cunningham. Like, that's.
But
it.
He's got COVID, so he's not going to play.
All right,
so
then, there you go. I mean,
yeah.
that's the defense we're going to see. The offense, like Anthony Miller, they just traded him. I mean, Brandon Cooks is probably going to catch 10 passes for 15 yards or something like that because, they're struggling offensively. This is a get-right game. This is a game that they should win by 2 scores. Now, will they? I hope so. I mean, as I said on my show today, Wednesday, man, you look at the ALDS schedule and you look at this game on Sunday, and there is a potential for just a nightmare Monday morning, my friends, if things go wildly out of control over the next couple of days. The Patriots should win this game by 2 scores. They really should. That's the level of talent disparity. Bill Belichick, Steve Belichick, they should be able to really confuse Davis Mills. If you're seeing him make some reads like this, they should be able to have some success against him. They should give this offense some short fields. They should be able to run the ball on this team, unlike Tampa Bay's defensive front. This is a game that they really should go in and win.
Is Steve Belichick making a play for the head coach job? I mean, I got no other explanation.
Most memeable man alive, more than anything else.
My
Head
man's
coach
was
stuff.
just fiending a dip. That's all he was doing.
Seriously, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was.
That's exactly what it was. I don't know if it's that, Pat. I don't know if it's that.
I know.
But I mean, he's probably viewed as the next guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw something. I forget where it was, but it was basically like Steve Belichick's that guy who he's gonna get a head coaching job and he's gonna be terrible because he's gonna go in and be like, I'm Steve Belichick, like this is how things are gonna go, and then like he'll probably turn things around and get a second job and be a good head coach. But I wanted to ask you a little bit kind of about him.
You mean like his dad?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I want to ask you about him and like how would you defend Davis Mills? Because I don't think it's really all that hard. It's like attack him. And how do you think the Patriots are going to do it? Because I'm kind of surprised at how conservative they've been against non-Brady quarterbacks. It's been like we'll give you whatever you want, and then we're going to bow up in the red zone, which we've seen for the past 10 years. But I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of go and attack Davis Mills. I mean, I think that's what you do. And, typically I often vacillate between, okay, you're facing a young quarterback, rookie quarterback. Do you blitz him and speed up his mind, or do you drop and force him to make reads? Do you show him, too high, spin it to single high? Do you show him one high, spin it to too high, force him to make reads and decisions? I think you try to do both in an ideal situation. My fear with blitzing a quarterback, even Davis Mills, is he just knows, all right, I just throw to my hot read. Like, forget everything else. I don't have to think. I throw to my hot read. So I think, there will be times when you want to bring some pressure, but I think a lot of times you want to show him that pressure, make him think, oh, I'm going to have to throw my hot. This is where my eye's going to go. Then you drop 7, you drop 8, you get on. That's what Buffalo did on this play I was talking about. They showed pressure up front, showed him a 0 look, and then they dropped into cover 3 underneath. It was just, country cover 3. It wasn't the most exotic, like invert cover 3 kind of thing. And he just didn't. He just kind of panicked and threw to his first read and stared it down. So I think you mix things up, but I'm inclined to say, yeah, attack him a couple of times, but for the most part, show him some of these looks, make him think he's got his hot, then take it away and make him think on the fly.
We saw it last week, right? Like they have 3 guys where that's all they need. Judon, Barmore, and Winovich, let them rush and then drop everybody else. And
I mean, that's what they were doing to Brady. I mean, there are a lot of times where they just went drop 8 against him,
and that's your most talented group. So why are you going to take those guys off the field? Sorry to cut you off.
No, I think that's exactly right, Keegan, and especially look, you only have a couple of guys you really need to worry about. Like, and this is an offensive line that drop 8. You can get pressure with 3. Like, I think you can. And so that might be a smart way to go about this.
Yeah. Speaking of offensive line, COVID protocols, how are we looking here? I mean, of course, no one knows the situation with on when and win, but like, are we?
I think Bill said today he has no idea too.
I think the rule is if you're vaccinated, all you need to do is test negative, and you're twice.
I think it's 2 negative tests,
like 24 hours.
In 24 hours, and you can come back. If you're not vaccinated, I think it's like 10 days.
Yeah. Automatically quarantine.
Yeah.
So I would assume both of those guys are vaccinated because nobody has said that they're out. So I would assume that they're both vaccinated because otherwise they'd be like, oh, well, they're definitely out at least this week, right? So I would assume that they're both vaccinated, and they were just waiting on tests and see what happens because that would be ideal. Because listen, I tweeted out like how much worse could the second line be, but worse, definitely
it's
worse.
The Yanni Kajus revenge game. We haven't seen him yet. He's been buried. That quad, whatever happened to that thing, like.
I mean, this is the reason you brought Karras back too, which is a good little plug and play guy.
Yep.
But the tackles, you got a mess on the right side, and I don't think Isaiah Wynn's been that good either. But he's certainly an upgrade over whoever they're going to plug in over there if he can't go. So,
right,
yeah. What's worse than Yasir Durant or Justin Herron? Both, one on each side.
Exactly.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Oh my goodness. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting, and I think there's definitely reason for optimism. They're 1-3, but like the hardest thing about 1-3 is that they really should be 3-1, right? You lose those 2 games that you probably should have won, and realistically, New Orleans is a beatable team that they just played like crap against, So that's the hard thing, and of course, it's a rookie quarterback. They're still getting their feet wet. They're still figuring things out. Like I feel like we're going to be heading in the right direction, but and I think most people feel the same way. Like this season to me is all about Mac Jones. And if Mac Jones, shows, which I think he has, that he can be a good quarterback moving forward, that to me is all I'm looking for. Right. And I went back last week. I went back and looked at Brady's first 3 games and just compared it to Brady's first 3 games, because I feel like that was a little bit more even than comparing it to Cam's first 3 games last year, simply because it's both their first starts of their career. Obviously, different game now than it was back then, but still, And Max said, is he at 70% by now for the season? He was at 68 before the game, and he was 31 for 40 the other day. So I bet you he's close to 70% on the season. Like that's ridiculous to be that after 4 games, and to get hit the amount of times that he's gotten hit is just is crazy.
He's right
at
70 right now.
So yeah, so I mean, talking about 70% completion. I mean, there's not much more you can ask for than that. Of course, you want the deep shots, right? You want to throw deep, but like he's done that. His wide receiver won the Heisman Trophy, for Christ's sake. Like it's not because he was throwing all short routes; he was going deep. And Mark, you talked about it right after they drafted him. You talked about the play action fake, and this is why I think they need to be in the shotgun more, because the play action fake off the shotgun, and then you said like he wanted to throw deep when he'd run the play action, and he wanted to throw deep off the play action. He wasn't throwing short.
They did. Like in Alabama.
Right. And that's what I want to see them do more of, because I don't think they've played to his strengths enough.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So we'll see. But anyways, it should be a heck of a game. So we will see what happens. But Mark, thank you so much for coming through. We appreciate it. Listen, everyone, if you listen to the Pat's Pulpit, for Christ's sake, you know who Mark is. But Mark, just plug yourself anyways, because, by the way, my favorite part of your show is when you talk about the cavalcade of reminders. And I just because that word is like an SAT word and it's hysterical. And every time you use it, I laugh because.
Yeah, I mean, once I said it for the first time, I don't know when. And ever since then, it's just kind of stuck. And part of it is because I have to remind myself the places I need to do work for, so people don't yell at me. On Twitter at Mark Schofield, USA Today, Touchdown Wire, Big Blue View, Blue Green Nation, Pat's Pulpit, and the Sco Show, Blogging the Boys. I think that kind of covers everything. Matt Waldman's Quick Game RSP podcast that we do every week. But guys, this was a ton of fun. Thanks for having me. Let me vent a little bit. I kind of needed it after what we woke up to Wednesday.
Yeah.
Before you go, Cowboys next week, 3-word answer on how to defend Dak Prescott.
Pray and pray more. He's playing well right now. I mean, he's played well right now. And look, Cooper's great. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is a problem. Their 2 tight ends are playing well too.
Yeah, Schultz is really good.
Schultz is good. Jarwin is a good player. Kellen Moore is doing a lot of creative stuff. We saw how they closed out that game with the handoff into an option, Elliott and Pollard. Those 2 running backs have also been really good in pass protection stuff. And, Carolina threw a lot of blitzes at them. Pollard, Elliott, they're picking stuff up well. That's a dangerous team right now. Their defense has been better too than people expected. Yeah. Parsons has looked good. I know they just, they released Jalen Smith, but Parsons has looked good. Trayvon Diggs is playing corner as well as anybody in the league right now.
Defensive player of the year so far.
Yeah.
Who else?
So that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it won't be too tough this week, but we'll see.
We'll see.
But thanks for coming through, Mark. We appreciate it. We'd love having you on. And of course, at one point, listen, at some point, Mark, you will be writing for all 32 SB Nation outlets. That's the goal,
there,
I think.
Man. I'm slowly getting there, Pat. We'll see. Just stack one on the other.
There you go. All right, Mark. Thanks, man.
Boys. See you.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to get into our 5-minute fantasy section. We have a great guest coming through. Matter of fact, this guest is the reason that I am in the Scott Fishbowl. I did a little trivia on his YouTube stream. So Luke Sawhook coming through. Luke, thanks for coming through, man. We appreciate it.
How we doing? How's your Scott Fishbowl team looking, by the way?
3-1, baby.
I actually know what I am. I haven't been paying too much attention to it, if I'm being honest. That's kind of embarrassing for me.
Yeah, I drafted Kyler number 3. And then got Rodgers on the way back, and so they've been killing it. Those 2 guys have been kind of carrying me.
Yeah, so. I have Mahomes and Tom Brady, who have been doing very well.
That's okay.
But my team got screwed with injury. So my running backs after those guys were Clyde Edwards-Helaire, J.K. Dobbins, and Josh Jacobs. That trio would have been nasty. But J.K. Dobbins going down leaves me with Clyde and Jacobs, which is kind of gross. And then my wide receivers aren't great because I started out so quarterback heavy.
Those are my two running backs in my big league, Edwards and Jacobs.
How's that going?
But I got Kyler and Devontae, Cooper, and AB and Myers, so I can make up for it.
That's
See,
fair.
there you go. See? So no, it's fun.
My record is on. I need to scroll the way down to my division here.
Dude,
I'm 3-1.
Look at you. See, look at that. See, you didn't even know.
I'll take it.
The MFL is the worst. It's the worst. Oh my God.
That's one of the reasons I don't look at it very often because I just hate MFL so much. It's a terrible website.
I can't
really
even.
is.
I'm on the app now. I guess I got to use the website more, but I'm on the app. I don't even know the free agents. I don't even know who's on free agent.
I don't know where to look. I don't know
what a
where
nightmare.
To go. The set lineup thing is something straight out of like the early 2000s. It's
crazy.
an awful interface.
Crazy. So, anyways, all right. So we're gonna get into 5 minute fantasy. Here's how it works, Luke. I literally have my phone. I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes. We're gonna ask you. We're gonna pepper you with some fantasy questions. You can also talk about any fantasy stuff that you want as well.
Go ahead.
When that timer goes off for 5 minutes, you're done. Mid word, like can't even finish the word that you're in.
I still have a 3-page essay to write before midnight. So.
Look at that. So we'll get you in. We'll get you in and out. That's the idea, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So here we go, Luke. Your 5 minutes starts now. Luke, first question: which running back are you picking up off the waiver wire this week?
Well, the waivers ran last night in most leagues, so you're probably too late. But Damian Williams and Samaje Perine were the two targets this week because Williams is going to be in about 4 to 5 weeks with Dave Montgomery sidelined, and Samaje Perine's a good 1 week rental.
Love it. Okay, 1 week rental. There was another running back got hurt as well, didn't he? What the hell was I looking at? There was another guy that I was looking at too that I was like, oh, I'll pick that guy up, but I forget who it was.
I forget. It might have been someone from the Patriots, maybe. I forget. I'm not too sure.
No, I don't know. Either way, doesn't matter. Yeah, right. Yeah, so wide receiver wise, anyone out there wide receiver? Oh, first of all, actually, let's do this. Trade target. Who are you targeting to trade? That's really what I want to ask
trade
for you.
For or trade away?
Let's do both. Let's do trade for first, and then who are you trying to get rid of? Who are you trying to sell?
Okay, so trade for, my biggest one for a while now has been Stephon Diggs. He still is disappointed. He's starting to figure out a little bit, but he still leads the NFL in air yards, which in case you're unfamiliar for some reason, air yards is the combined distance on like actual received passes and your targets. So if you get targeted on an 80-yard pass, but it's incomplete, and you still get 80 air yards, it kind of just shows how much the team's actually trying to utilize you and how far downfield, which is usually the more valuable targets. Stephon Diggs leads the NFL in air yards, and I think he's top 3 in unrealized. I think it's called air yards. So like air yards that didn't come to fruition on actual receptions. He's elite talent. Him and Josh Allen have a good connection. He'll figure it out for fantasy. He just hasn't scored touchdowns. But yeah, he's very good. Stephon Diggs for sure. Another trade target. I mean, it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. After week 2, everyone thought he was hot garbage. I don't think so anymore necessarily, but people still hate on him out there. Players I'm trading away. I've been big on the sell high on Mike Williams train. He pooped his pants on Monday Night Football.
Sure did.
He had a terrible game. Before that, though, everyone thought he was like the second coming, and people still think he's like the second coming. I don't think he is. I think he's a very good player, and I think his role has changed. I think he's probably a top 15, top 20 wide receiver for the rest of the season. I think he's going to be good, but some people, he's the wide receiver. Well, going into last week, he was the wide receiver 2 in PPR, and everyone is like, no, he's going to keep this up. Like everyone's still hot on him for some reason, where you can go out and trade him for DeAndre Hopkins or something like that. Straight up, I've seen it happen. You can go out and get insane value for Mike Williams. And if you're just holding him right now, I think you're making a mistake where you could, I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but you could easily capitalize on the value and get better players who are more stable long-term.
I like that. I like the value. All right. Start sit questions. I don't know if we have any,
Sure.
but who are the guys that you're starting that maybe other people, or you're sitting that maybe other people aren't talking about right now?
Good question. I actually haven't looked at it yet. I will probably tomorrow. Let's look at the schedule here. So week 5, we got Hey, my boy Sam Darnold has another good matchup. He was my start of the week last week. A lot of people didn't like it. He finished as a QB1 in the week, so I'd love to see that. He has the Eagles at home. Sam Darnold's another good sneaky start there. Who's playing the Chiefs? It's the Bills. Zach Moss is a great start against the Chiefs because I think he'll definitely fall in the end zone a couple times, even though he feels disgusting. Let's see. What other matchups do we got here? I'm benching Cortland Sutton this week against the Steelers because he's going to have Drew Lock at quarterback most likely, and that's going to be gross for him. Who else? I'm benching all of Miami Dolphins against the Buccaneers for now because Jacoby Brissett's gross. That's about it, really. There's nothing too crazy. Mac Jones might be a good start against the Texans.
Hmm.
Same with Damian Harris for sure.
Little Damo action. It'd be nice since he has like 0 yards in the last 2 weeks. That'd be really nice.
Yeah. Well, he's had 2
Freaking
free matchups.
killing my fantasy team.
It makes sense.
So,
sense.
That's true. It's a good point. So
I got a quick question. I've been asking everybody that comes on. Kyle Pitts, how do you feel about drafting him? I drafted him in the 4th round this year. How do you feel?
Oh, you are a dumb man. I'm just kidding. But I like Kyle Pitts. I think he's a good player, and I like him in Dynasty a lot if you play Dynasty. But I don't understand why people were drafting him in the 4th round, where you could get my guy TJ Hawkinson around later, who is outperforming him in every which way.
Yep. I paired him with Noah Fant late, so he's been sitting on my bench, and I've got Fant starting. Good for Dynasty though. I think that's my I'm banking on him becoming a weapon.
It was a Dynasty league in Keegan's defense. It was a Dynasty league, so it wasn't totally crazy.
3-1. It's not like I stink. So
yeah.
Wait. Hold on. You took Kyle Pitts in the 4th round of a Dynasty startup?
Yeah.
Oh, that's totally different. That's a good pick. Good pick.
Okay. So
there you go, Keegan. You got to lead with that, Keegan.
Yeah. Redraft, he was going in the 4th round.
I look at my fantasy lineup once a week, and then I'm like, all right, it's done.
All right. That's it. We're done. It was a solid 5 minutes. 5 minutes goes by pretty quick when you're not paying attention to it. So, but Luke, man, thank you so much for coming through. As I said, Luke was the reason. So what happened is that Luke had, for those people that don't know, Luke had one entry from Scott Fish for the Scott Fish Bowl. And he said, okay, I want to do like a trivia game. So we did this trivia game, and it was basically like a Jeopardy style trivia game. And it was wild. It was 4 of us, right? It was the 4 of us were competing. 3 of us. That's right. 3 of us were competing. And it went to me and this other guy went to a sudden death tiebreaker.
That was a good game. I think that was the best game of Jeopardy I've done.
Dude, I was like sweating. And I won, which was awesome. And then he surprised us and said that Scott had actually given him 3 entries for all 3 of us, which was pretty cool. So we all got an entry into the Scott Fish Bowl, and it was pretty awesome. So, but anyways, that was kind of my introduction to Luke. And Luke's you were young in there, Luke, but you're killing it in the game. So
thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, but turn 21 soon though. So
see, look at that.
He's not that young. I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm not that young.
There's people like a year older than us.
I was going to say, these 2 guys are young too.
My favorite young guy on Twitter, though, shout out to him, is Hutchison Brown on Twitter. He's at TMF NFL or something like that. Hutchison Brown. He's a great follow. He's only 15. He's a stud.
Yep. So that's it, man. So, all right, Luke, before we let you go, you got to plug yourself. Let everyone know where they can read you, see you, hear you, everything else like that.
Sure. All my content is pretty much on my Twitter. If you just head over there, it's just at Luke Sawhook, like it's my name on the screen. If you're watching, if you're listening, it's Luke and the 2 metal tools, saw and a hook. Go over to the Twitter. Follow me over there, and you'll find everything else from there. So appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. And
absolutely.
Get out of the way.
Thanks for coming through, Luke. We appreciate it, man. Have a great night, all right? See you. All right. Nice. Dude, Luke has the coolest animation when he does like a video. It comes through with like a whole saw and a hook thing, and we're like whole.
I just followed him. I like it. I like his Twitter game.
Yeah, it's cool. So anyway, so that's what we got. 2/3. So 2/3 of the Patriot Nation podcast will be in Houston this weekend for the Houston game. So that'll be fun. So we're gonna get to the game. Obviously, then we're gonna find a bar later and watch hopefully the Sox game, right? I don't know what time the Sox game is going to be.
Yeah, Spags will be on FaceTime the entire day, so keep your charger close.
We're literally going to be FaceTiming from the game, like he's sitting next to us in the at the game. Yeah. So
no, it should be fun. Well, we'll try to figure out some sort of content to do because
we're very not creative about this shit, but we're going to try to figure it out.
I was denied entry in Destination Imagination, which was like a creative group in elementary school. They told me I wasn't creative enough.
That was the end of that. Yep. No, that's the way it goes. I'm not creative at all, but that's, what are you going to do? So anyways, thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it. And hopefully Get Right Week. The Get Right Week this week is what we're hoping. So anyways, guys, have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.